All right, everyone, good evening. Welcome back to the Homeopathy 360 webinar series, and I welcome you all. I'm Dr. Mansi from Homeopathy 360, and we have today Dr. Satyajit Kuchar with us. A warm welcome to you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Dr. Satyajit Kuchar is a highly experienced consultant homeopath and accomplished author specializing in homeopathic materia medica. With over 8 years of dedicated practice in homeopathy, he currently operates across 3 clinics in Akola, Maharashtra. Dr. Kuchar has authored several books on homeopathy, contributing significantly to the field. His insightful articles and case studies have been published in well known homeopathic journals, earning him recognition within the medical community. In addition to his clinical work, Dr. Kuchar is a sought after speaker, having been invited to various platforms for both online and offline sessions, including study forums and portals. So we can see that Dr. Satyajit Kuchar has contributed to the homeopathy family a lot more than. So we are very inspired from Dr. Satyajit Kuchar, and today we are going to learn about homeopathic materia medica. The topic is how to study homeopathic materia medica. As the student, we can understand that studying materia medica is always a task to us. And today, we are going to complete this task. We can learn a lot from Dr. Satyajit Kuchar. Thank you so much, sir, for being with us.
Thank you, Dr. Maki, for such a overwhelming, such a heartwarming introduction. Thank you, everyone, for joining. And just one correction: the city in which I practice is Akola. Just one correction.
Okay.
So let's begin.
Yes,
People
sir.
have been
Sure.
already waiting.
Sure,
So,
sir.
may I just know how many doctors are there? If you can just raise your hand, or if you can just
Yes,
make a thumbs
everyone
up.
can contribute in the communication.
Yes.
You
I
can
wish to make it
interact with us.
interactive. I wish to make it interactive.
Yes,
So,
sir.
uh, let's begin with the light story. Uh, let's make it interactive. Let's make it bilingual because some things are best expressed in English. Uh, Maybe a global language or the language which connects us commonly. Yeah, Dr. Vidhi, Dr. Mantiri, Dr. Archana, and any more doctors who are like purely practicing and who have completed their graduation or post graduation. Okay, yes, Dr. Rahman. Good. Good. Thank you. Thank you for your responses. So let's begin with a story. Uh, I'll tell the story in Hindi क्योंकि उस story का मजा जो है वो हिंदी में ही है. 2011 में मैं रॉजर मैजवैन जैंडरवुड आए थे इंडिया में. उनका सेमिनार था. तो उनका सेमिनार था इन सिटी ऑफ भोपाल, भोपाल एमपी 2011 में. आई गेस जुलाई और समथिंग, मंथ याद नहीं. 2011 वहाँ डॉक्टर तांबे सर करके थे. वो एक स्टोरी सुना रहे थे. देयर वाज अ डोंकी who was not moving ahead despite of uh, any amount of course or any amount of persuasion. एक था गधा जो कुछ भी करके आगे चल ही नहीं रहा था, बढ़ ही नहीं रहा. वो कुछ भी कर लो. फिर लोग, राइट्स एंड तो बहुत होते हैं, अलग अलग तरह के लोग आ रहे थे. ओके सर, इंग्लिश. ओके ओके ओके. So instead of keeping it bilingual, let's keep it in English. So, okay, that's absolutely fine. Back in 2011, I attended a seminar in Bhopal. The author of Complete Repertory, Dr. Roger Madge Van Zanderwood, had visited India to deliver a seminar on therapeutic pocketbook. Some other speakers were also invited. One of them was Dr. Vijay Tambe. Vijay Tambe recited a very interesting story. Uh, so there was a donkey who was not moving ahead. He was just like sitting at a place or like standing still at a place. He was not moving ahead regardless of any amount of pushing or persuasion or any sort of such activity. So people started giving suggestions. He might be very tired. Let him rest for a while. He might be hungry. Try to bring some food or fodder for him. So one guy also suggested, bring a well-groomed female donkey in front of him. Let her walk. Maybe he would follow her. Ultimately, that donkey started walking quite briskly. When did he start walking? There was a person, probably a homeopath, most probably a homeopath, who came and he just like muttered in his ears, चलता है कि homeopathic materia medica सुना. For heaven's sake, please start walking, else I'll start narrating homeopathic materia medica. So could you get it? Could you relate to that story? The other, MD materia medica closes at a higher level. So, uh, students as well as practitioners face difficulties in studying, understanding, memorizing, and applying materia medica. That's why I thought of choosing this topic. Uh, Dr. Mansi and I have uh, penned down certain topics which we wish to highlight in this session. But before entering into those points, so students as well as practitioners, if you have any difficulties in studying, memorizing, understanding, and applying materia medica, can you please type those difficulties in the comment section, in the chat section, so I can include those difficulties in the list, and we can highlight those difficulties as well. So please, if you have any difficulties in studying, understanding, and applying materia medica, you can just type those. Remembering symptoms, yes. Remembering symptoms, yes. Anything else? Yes. Very quickly so that I can proceed to the next point. Remembering symptoms, potency selection. Okay, potency. Okay. Anything else? Potency selection. Okay. Anything else? आवाज कम आ रही है. So am I audible now? Uh, अभी आ रही है Dr. Pooja? Am I audible now? The comparison part. Similar symptoms. Yes, question and answer session. Remembering symptoms, comparison part, differentiation of similar medicine, DD of similar medicines. Okay, I guess now the voice is audible. I need to hold the certain part. Comparison of the medicine, potency selection. Many modalities slips from our mind. Yes, modalities. Sir, I'm student and all symptoms greatest cures and mix. Yes, mixing of the symptoms. Mixing, right? Mixing of the symptoms. Yeah, that's true, sir. Maybe Dr. Harshita is talking about the donkey story, right? Symptoms get mixed up, PQRS comparisons, potency and modalities, and confusion. Okay, okay. These are the basically these are the difficulties. Yes. Uh, there are different approaches to study of materia medica, and I won't say I have devised my own method, but uh, we develop a certain thinking and approach towards everything which we face in our lives, right? So I have like unable to remember properly. Okay, so I have those uh, thoughts and ideas for you, so which we'll talk and discuss about. So, before entering into how to study Materia Medica, different approaches into the study of Materia Medica, let's take a quick look at the basics of Materia Medica. Materia Medica, the word itself, it's a Latin word which means medicinal material. And the concept of Materia Medica, and especially homeopathic Materia Medica, is based on the doctrine of drug proving. Doctrine of drug proving. So you remember the Syncona experiment done by Dr. Hahnemann? So what we have been telling, na, what it can cause, it can cure. If a certain drug, if a certain medicine can produce certain symptoms, certain group of symptoms in healthy individuals, it can cure those symptoms, those group of symptoms in a diseased individual. This is the very simple funda. This is the very simple idea. This is the very simple concept behind homeopathic materia medica. What it can cause, it can cure. So basically, homeopathic materia medica is based on the concept of drug proving. So that's why when we explain what is homeopathic materia medica, so we to our non-homeopath friends who are allopaths or ayurvedacharya or from the Unani or dentist or from the paramedical stuff, be it physiotherapist or nurses, etc. We explain, na, so they ask, so what is homeopath? So what is materia medica? So कई बार हम उनको बोलते हैं ना, many a times we tell them. So homeopathic materia medica is basically homeopathic pharmacology, right? So every system of medicine has its own materia medica. In allopathy, they call it allopathic pharmacology or pharmacology simply. In Ayurveda, they call it Dravya Gun. In Siddha, they call it Gunapadam. If I'm taking the right word, if I'm making the correct pronunciation of the word. So, fundamentals of Materia Medica. Materia Medica is basically based on the principle of doctrine of drug proving. What it can cause, it can cure. So, here I'll ask you the first question. Dr. Mansi, am I allowed to do one thing? The person or persons who answer the maximum questions correctly, they'll receive a special gift from me. Am I allowed to do that?
Sir, of course, if you want to.
Yes, obviously, I would love
Okay.
that.
Okay.
So, here we have a concept in Organon, true materia medica or real materia medica. So, can you just tell me the number of aphorisms? Can you just tell me the aphorism number? True or real materia medica? It's written about true or real materia medica in Organon. So, can you tell me the number of the aphorism? Quickly, quickly. 110? No, it's not. No, it's not. Quickly. So, by the time we get the answers, is the concept clear? 272 is about single simple remedy. 294, no, you're talking about fifth edition. 294, 294, 293, you're talking about. If you're talking about 292 onwards, that means you're talking about fifth edition. No. So, any more answers? Any more answers? Real materia medica or true materia medica? No? Any more answers? So, shall I disclose the answer? 143. Yes, yes, correct. The answer is half correct. But I'll consider it correct because 100 and 133, Dr. Harshita writes 143. Dr. Harshita 144. Absolutely, absolutely. It's 143, 144, and 145. Yes. So the basis of materia medica, the fundamental of homeopathic materia medica is clear. And here just as we related organon, we can relate pharmacy also. We know the basic definitions of drug, medicine, and remedy. I'm not asking the bookish remedy. I'm not asking the bookish definition. Any substance which is capable of affecting a biochemical change in the body is drug, and any drug which is well prepared in terms of pharmacy and which is used in the treatment of the sick, it is then it becomes medicine. And when the medicine acts curably in a particular case, then it becomes the remedy for that case. Making it simple. So, this is the basics of homeopathic materia medica. Now we'll see how to study homeopathic materia medica. We'll be dealing about different approaches, and we'll be dealing about what are the common mistakes we make, how to remember the symptoms, and how to overcome these difficulties. If you think we can make a list of n number of difficulties while studying materia medica, but what you don't know, this is the common things which doctors face, and most commonly students face it. So different authors write different symptoms in different books. Please say which book to use. Okay, okay, yes, different book. I actually highlight this book. I highlight this point in many of my talks. Dr. Shraddha Waghela has also written aphorism 144. Dr. Mansi, can you just please write down Shraddha Waghela and Harshita? They have answered correctly to this question. So basically, we'll start with how to study materia medica. So what I do, what I find the method most correct and most sensible is uh, studying one drug at a time. Study one drug at a time. What we generally do now at the times of exams, एक दिन में कितने कितने ड्रग पढ़ते हैं हम? So many drugs we study in a day, right? एक दिन में कितने? So ideally, the ideal method is study one drug at a time. एक दिन में एक ही ड्रग पढ़ो, right? One drug a day. And students, when I was a student, I did the same mistake. We all do the, we all have done the same mistake. We study so many drugs in a day, and it is very likely that the confusion will occur, right? The confusion also arises because of the similarity, because of the subtle differences, because of uh, uh, not reading it regularly. But basically, the confusion arises because of we study many drugs in a day. Dr. Tyler has written that Dr. Tyler has written that she says that some of the stalwarts have written that study one drug a day and two on Sundays. Study one drug a day and two on Sundays. So you can just write down the points how to study materia medica. Instead of reading many drugs in a day, study one drug a day and two on Sundays. So this is what Dr. M.L. Tyler tells us in according to what some stalwart has written. She doesn't mention the name of that stalwart. And another important point is instead of studying many remedies superficially, it would always be advisable to study. If you're studying 500 remedies, or for that matter, if you're studying 300 remedies, but you're studying all those remedies superficially, so it would be much more advisable and it would be much more sensible to study 30 remedies, but to study them in detail instead of studying 300 remedies superficially. So till now I spoke 2 points. So are you with me? To one drug at a time and studying remedies in depth instead of studying remedies superficially. Now this may not be applicable to studying. So now, so students will ask me, so can we skip some remedies from the syllabus? No, you don't do that. But for practitioners, it applies more because in today's time, in Hahnemann proved some 99 or 100 drugs, right? So there is a confusion and there is difference of opinion as to how many drugs he proved. He proved 90 to 99 to 100 drugs. Some 40 odd drugs were proved by Herring, and some stalwarts proved. If we combine, if we make a list of remedies as to some 200 to 225 remedies would come that our stalwarts advise us to study or emphasize. In today's date, there are more than 5,000 to 6,000 remedies. It is not practically possible to know about these remedies. We हम तो नाम भी नहीं बता सकते 5,000 6,000 remedies का. So instead of running behind those remedies which are not well proved, which are just चलो कुछ नया रेमेडी प्रूव करते, कुछ माइंड में आया इसलिए नया प्रूव करते हैं. इसके बजाय we should emphasize on well proven remedies. We should emphasize on polycrest. We should emphasize. Uh, so, Dr. Mansi, can I do one thing? There is a remedy, there is a list of 200 to 220 remedies which our stalwarts have advised to study those remedies on first priority. So, can I make a post on that and tag homeopathy 360 in that post? Is that fine? Dr. Mansi, are you there? Okay. So, coming to those. So one more difficulty some person has, Dr. Mohammed, sir, many a times newer medicines are a similar version of the well-proved medicines. Yes, this is also one of the difficulties. Yes. So 2 points, one drug at a time, and studying many remedies. Instead of studying many remedies superficially, it would be more sensible to study some remedies in detail. But students, at least from exam point of view, you don't skip any remedy, right? So for students, message for students as well as doctors, is that message clear? And it is advisable to study a drug from various authors. So someone had asked, some points are highlighted by some authors and some points are highlighted by some authors, while some other points are highlighted by some other authors. Right? So the answer is there. I'll give you the answer. So different doctors are obviously apt to give different pictures if they try to compress the vast potentialities of a drug in few lines. Different doctors are obviously apt to give different pictures if they try to compress the vast potentialities of a drug in few lines. So this is written by Elias Barker. Dr. M.L. Tyler has also written that some some author highlights some points, some author highlights another point. So it is sensible to study, it is advisable to study a drug from various authors. In The Soul of Remedies by Dr. Rajan Shankaran, Dr. Rajan Shankaran sir also says that for years together, I hesitated to write a book on materia medica because it is quite likely that a person will become biased about the remedies, right? So I'll read out what Dr. Rajan Shankaran sir has written. For a long time, I hesitated to write a book on remedies because I'm well aware of the dangers inherent in such an undertaking. In the first place, there is a strong possibility that the reader, especially if he is a beginner in the field, might become fixed on these remedy pictures and forget that every remedy has a wider range and greater scope than any one individual can see or describe. Dr. M.L. Tyler writes that it is wise to study drugs described by different authors. One finds one point emphasized by one exponent, one by another. Different persons realize or visualize the same drug in different ways according to their experience, according to their powers, and according to their uses. Uh, there is another story. There is another story. Uh, in a in a place, there were six blind men, six visually challenged men, six differently abled men who had never seen an elephant. Obviously, how could they see they are visually challenged? But they never felt the elephant with their hands also. They never perceived it with their hands also. Somebody asked them to feel the elephant and describe the elephant. One person held the tusk of the elephant. One person grabbed the tail of the elephant. One person grabbed the leg of the elephant. One person leaned against the torso of the elephant. So, and so on. So the person who grabbed the tusk of the elephant, he said that elephant is like a spear. The person who grabbed the tail of the elephant, he said that elephant is like a snake. One person who grabbed the leg of the elephant, he said that elephant is like a pillar. Uh, the person who leaned against the torso of the elephant, he said that elephant is like a soft wall. So the moral of the story is, so different people many a times highlight certain only certain aspects of the remedies. So to get a complete picture of the elephant, you need to listen to all those people, right? So to get a complete picture of the remedy, you need to read various authors, and that is the reason various authors. So the person who asked that question, different authors have highlighted different points. So now, did you get the answer from the example of the elephant and from what Dr. Tyler, from what Dr. Rajan Shankaran, or what Dr. Elias Barker has said? So, did you get the answer to that question? So is that point fine? Reading from different authors, reading drugs in detail rather than reading drugs superficially, and emphasizing on one drug at a time. So, what you can do is on weekdays, Dr. Emil Tyler says read one drug every day, two on Sundays. For example, if it's Monday, so you begin any polycrest on Monday. You read it from 3 to 4 at least. It's a standard Materia Medicas at least. On Sundays, you can study the smaller remedies or rarer remedies. If you are a student, you can study the smaller and rare remedies which are in your syllabus. As doctors, we can study the smaller or rarer remedies which are useful in day-to-day clinical practice. So the next point is reading the preface of any materia medica is very important. Why a certain materia medica is written in a certain way, or what we are going to learn in a certain materia medica is highlighted in the preface of the materia medica. So it is very important to read the preface of the materia medica. I hope you people are writing down the points. So this is the fourth point. First point is emphasizing on one drug at a time. Second point is instead of studying remedies superficially, it is advisable to study certain remedies in depth. Third point is reading from various authors. Fourth point is reading the uh, preface of the book. For example, if you study the preface of Boric, some may like it, some may not like it. Some may like it because you find that many all the important information or much important information is given in few pages. Some may not like it because mental symptoms are not highlighted that much, right? But if you read the preface of Boric, you will find that he has mentioned maximum number of reliable materia medica symptoms in minimum space. Yet it should be taken as a supplement to other materia medicas, especially those of provings. Uh, in the preface of Allen's keynotes, Dr. Allen's writes that I have highlighted the most striking point which you should not miss in any remedy. Dr. Philip Bailey. Dr. Philip Bailey. How many persons have read Dr. Philip Bailey's Materia Medica? So quickly. How many people have read? Uh, how many people have read Dr. Philip Bailey's Materia Medica? Yes, Dr. Harshit. Yes. So, so the dis- so you might be wondering from where so many mental symptoms came. It is mainly his clinical experience. It is mainly his clinical experience. So there are in student life we studied various sources of materia medica. It's from the proving, the physical properties, the chemical properties, the doctrine of signature, the empirical source, the toxicological data, etc., etc. But in practice, but in the real sense, two sources are of utmost importance. Two sources are most reliable. One is proving, and second is the clinical experience. Because everything is not to be seen in the proving, many things are seen in the clinical experience. Then, third, fourth importance is their toxicological data and all other things, right? Utmost importance is what is seen in the proving, second is what is seen in the clinical experience by doctors, and third is toxicological data. And other sources are of relatively lesser importance or relatively lesser reliable. Doctrine of signature is the least reliable. We'll talk about it in the later part of the session. Yes, Dr. Shivani, Dr. Sai. Yes. So, yes, a good part. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you for your response, doctors. So, I guess the pace is fine. So, are you with me as far as the points are connected? So, are you getting some new concepts? Are you getting some thoughts how to read Materia Medica? If you, if I'm going slow, please let me know. If I'm going fast, please let me know. If the points are not clear, please let me know so that I can build the pace accordingly. So I'm seeing the chat as well. It's good so far. Thank you, Dr. Shreya. It could be faster for me. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, doctor. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce your name. Thank you, Dr. Vasan Kumar. It could be faster for me. Thank you, Dr. Enigret, if I'm not mispronouncing your name. Thank you. I'll try to make it a bit faster. So, uh, preface. Preface is important. Read the preface of Allen's, read the preface of Boric, read the preface of every other book, every other Materia Medica that you are reading. And as far as the preface of Dr. Philip Bailey is concerned, he writes that in our Materia Medicas, especially the older classics, the crude and the end stage of any remedy is written, and the finer details are not mentioned. So, which was a necessity, which made it a necessity to write such a book. For example, in Allen's keynotes, sepia goes into indifference, it is written, but the whole journey of that indifference is not written, right? So for certain materia medicas, it became a necessity to highlight that. Yet, so there are healthy versions of some remedies, there are unhealthy versions. It was essential to write. So Dr. Philip Bailey writes. So now you get why Philip Bailey writes those things. It in the preface. So it is sort of assignment for you. Read the preface of Philip Bailey. So coming to the next point, there are various approaches in the study of homeopathic materia medica, right? So I'll highlight on those very quickly. The anatomical schema method. Anatomical schema method. All the symptoms of either provings or Dr. Pooja is asking, Sir, Materia Medica read karna important hai hi, but also kindly suggest clinical therapeutics books. Absolutely, absolutely. You can, I'll answer this question right away. Clinical therapeutics, Lilienthal is a good book, but I mostly use more of a reference. If you want to read therapeutics books on a daily basis, just to improve your therapeutic knowledge of a drug, you can read Practical Materia Medica by W.A. Dewey. You can read Pointers to Common Remedies by M.L. Tyler. You can read Therapeutic Pointers by Dr. Farrington. And there are some other books. For example, Find Your Remedy by Dr. H.S. Khaneja. You can read that book. There is a book by Dr. Dhama, I guess Mr. and Mrs. Dhama. These are the books which are practically applicable. And there are certain books of clinical tips which are also useful. I'll tell you the names of those books. Which books are of primary importance? We'll get to this question towards the end, right, Dr. Shreya? Now, coming to different, so far, all the points are clear. We'll move towards various approaches in the study of materia medica. So, Dr. Pooja, did you note down? So we'll make it a bit faster because time is also ticking and it shouldn't be that slow. So one method is anatomical schema method. Anatomical schema method is examples of such materia medicas are Materia Medica Pura by Dr. Henneman, Dictionary of Practical Materia Medica by Dr. Clark, Encyclopedia of Pure Materia Medica by Dr. T.F. Allen, Handbook of Materia Medica by T.F. Allen, Guiding Symptoms of Materia Medica by Dr. Herring. So, in the anatomical schema method, if you just take a look, maximum books you will find books of the source books or books of the provings वाली जो books है, the source books you will find them, right? But certain books which are in the category of clinical materia medica, for example, Borix materia medica, they also follow this schema. All the symptoms which the author wishes to highlight, they are highlighted in a head to foot manner, right? So this is one method. So this is also uh, a good method to memorize or understand, because Dr. Sai has a question. I'll come to your question after answering after completing this approach, anatomical schematic method. Uh, for example, if you study any remedy, if you take any remedy, for example, uh, you you can just memorize. If you're talking about any remedy, for example, natromure. So natromure का headache कैसा है तो आपको याद आ जाएगा, चलो हेड natromure के आई कंप्लेंट्स क्या है आपको याद आ जाएगा, natromure के नोज कंप्लेंट्स क्या है याद आ जाएगा, natromure के लिप कंप्लेंट्स याद आ जाएगी, राइट? वो भी एक जो जो हमारी डिफिकल्टी है ना, बेसिकली हम इस ऑर्डर में जाए तो एक थोड़ा बहुत, इफ वी गो बाय दिस ऑर्डर, if we go by this approach, it can be easy to memorize and easy to apply also, right? So this is what I think. The next method is keynote method. Dr. Sai, uh, Sai or Sai, in which book mental symptoms are compared? For example, Mind of Natromure and Scipia. Uh, just as physical symptoms are compared in those books in which physical symptoms are highlighted, mental symptoms are compared in those books in which mental symptoms are highlighted. So, books in which mental symptoms are highlighted: The Essence of Materia Medica by Dr. George Vitulkas, Materia Medica Viva by Dr. George Vitulkas, Homeopathic Psychology by Philip Bailey, Portrait of Remedies by Catherine Coulter, Soul of Remedies by Dr. Rajan Shankaran, Focus Materia Medica by Franz Vermeulen. Is that fine, Dr. Sai? Sir, Materia Medica is very confusing. How to deal with it? As a student, I face many problems. Farrington's Materia Medica. Yes, yes. But Farrington's Materia Medica mainly highlights physicals. Mentals are not that much in number. But thank you, doctor, for your input. Yes, I'll come to the difficulties. First, we'll just finish with the different approaches in the study of Materia Medica. So first is the anatomical schematic method. Second is the keynote type of Materia Medica. Allen's keynote, Lippe's Materia Medica, or Guernsey's Materia Medica. Lippe has written different types of Materia Medica. Textbook of Materia Medica, you can highlight it as a clinical Materia Medica, and he has also written keynote type of Materia Medica. Uh, Keynote, what we simply mean, I am not asking the definition in terms of theory. A central thread, a central theme which runs throughout the remedy. One important point to note here is all keynotes are characteristics. All characteristics are not keynotes. A very simple example you can take of bryonia. Dryness runs through all three levels: dryness at the physical level, dryness at the mental level, dryness at the emotional level. Dryness at the physical level, you can see dryness of mucous membrane, which causes constipation, which causes a sensation that a stone is lying in the stomach. The same there is there in pulsatilla. The same is there in nux vomica, right? But the uh, this is this I can relate to the questions asked by there are similar symptoms, how to differentiate remedies on that. So we'll come to that when we'll come towards applying materia medica, right? So dryness at all three levels, dryness at physical level, at the mental level, you have that dryness. uh, a person who is not very much artistic, a person who is not very much philosophical, he's very materialistic, he's very much into uh, hence you will find talking business of bargaining. He's very practical materialistic person. And at the emotional level, you won't find Brionia much into arts, right? So dryness at physical, mental, as well as emotional level. And that's why the dryness at the emotional, mental, physical level is compensated in the form of great thirst for large quantity of water at longer intervals. And arsenic is exactly the opposite, thirst for small quantity of water at small intervals. So this is the keynote method in which the central strands running through that remedy, the central theme or central themes, some people say that some people have highlighted one keynote. For example, Philip Bailey is a psychoanalytical type of materia medica, but he also writes the keynote of this remedy is this, the keynote of this remedy is this. So some authors have highlighted one keynote, some authors say that a remedy can have more than one keynote. So जितने भी, so how many number of common theme, how many howsoever number of common threads which may run through that remedy, those can be the keynotes. It may be one or more than one. If you study it's a causticum, the keynotes may be paralysis, soreness and rawness, affinity to single parts, right side, right? The next approach is drug picture approach or lecture type of approach. Kent's Materia Medica, M.L. Tyler's Materia Medica, Homeopathic Materia Medica by graphical drug pictures by Pulford. This is a drug picture type of Materia Medica, right? Where drugs are, uh, yes, Materia Medica by Dr. Kent. So, sort of lecture type of Materia Medica, these uh, drug pictures are highlighted. Uh, I guess we'll take some questions towards the end. Uh, Dr. Mansi, are you there? Okay.
Yes, sir.
So the
Yes, sir.
another,
You can
yes,
take the
yes,
floor.
yes, yes. The another important method is comparative. The comparison can be done at the symptomatic level. Comparison can be done at the organ level or the level of cells and tissues. Comparison can be done at the organ level. Comparison can be done at the disease level. Comparison can be done at the mind level, right? Symptom level, you have like much burning, like coals of fire. If it's ameliorated by warmth, we have arsenic. If it is ameliorated by warm application, we have arsenic. If it is ameliorated by cold application, we have sickle core. Vomiting ameliorates. Vomiting ameliorates. We have in iris worse, we have in nux vomica. But iris worse has sour vomiting. Nux vomica has bitter vomiting. So at the symptom level, uh, you can differentiate it with the help of modalities many a times. At the organ level or at the level of the tissue. Organ level, China is more of a liver remedy. Sinnothus americana is more of a spleen remedy. So you can differentiate that way. Uh, Rustox, Phytolacca, Futa, they act, rhododendron, they act more on the fibrous tissue. Bryonia acts more on the serous membranes. So here also it comes. So for students, study of anatomy in relation to materia medica. So can you now relate study of anatomy in relation to materia medica? There are certain remedies which are who have affinity for certain nerves, pneumogastric nerves. You have ipecac, antimtart, the snake group. For the eighth nerve, we have caliphos. So are you with me? At the comparison at the level of disease, comparison between graphitis and comparison with petroleum, we have studied so many similarities and differences. One point which we always remember, right, which we first read in Dubey and then read in another Materia Medicas, the discharge of both have cracks and fissures, but the discharge of petroleum is thin and watery, that of graphite is sticky and transparent. But at the disease level, if we wish to describe that, so Dr. Farrington writes that graphite produces picture of herpes, whereas petroleum produces a perfect picture of pure eczema. This you can relate at the level of disease. This you can study at the level of disease-wise comparison. For example, if I ask you, which remedy comes to your mind if we talk about the therapeutics of hydrophobia, you will write uh, the Solanaceae group especially, or Hydrophobinum licinum, right? Hydrophobinum synonymously licinum. But and one may consider licinum or Hydrophobinum being a nosode as a near specific for that. But if you see the common symptoms of rabies and the symptoms of belladonna, you'll find that belladonna bears so much striking similarity to the picture of rabies. We'll move towards the next approach. The next approach is a therapeutic method. Therapeutic method is the most used method, but is the least understood method. Therapeutic, yes, stramonium and licinum, yes, belladonna also. So you were talking about important medicines to study which are commonly used. Yes, yes. So can we take the question answer session at the last? We'll take it at the last. For dermatology like tinea versicolor, no cure since many years. Please suggest good medicine. Yes, yes. We'll take all the questions towards the last. Therapeutic method is the most used, but it is the least understood method. Therapeutic method is not about specifics. Therapeutic is not about suppression, especially who wish to nothing offensive or nothing personal against any school or any approach or thinking of any doctor or any or in general mindset. For example, when we wish to become classical homeopaths, we start to have certain biases about the therapeutic approach, or we start having certain we start looking down upon the therapeutic method of study, right? So therapeutic method is not about specifics. Therapeutics do not suppress a case. Therapeutics is not against classical homeopathy. Therapeutics is not against Hahnemannian homeopathy. What therapeutics means is therapeutic approach. Why a particular remedy is listed under, for example, if you are studying the therapeutics of herpes, all the important remedies, apis, rustox, ranunculus, mesarium, etc., etc., you find one thing common in all these remedies. All these remedies produce vesicular eruption. All these remedies have burning, stinging, burning pains, neuralgic pains, very marked. What we do in therapeutic method is one important point in application of materia medica is the pathogenesis of the disease should be matched with the pathogenesis of the drug, or you can vice versa. The pathogenesis of the drug should match with the pathogenesis of the disease. In therapeutic method, which is very perfectly matched, and that is why we have different remedies for different types of diseases, or same disease at the different stages. We have different remedies for first week of typhoid, second and third week of typhoid, different remedies for last week of typhoid. We have different remedies for petit mal epilepsy. We have different remedies for grand mal epilepsy because the presentation differs. We have different remedies for preherpetic neuralgia, where post-herpetic neuralgia, and where the vesicles are in full flow, in full-fledged developed stage. So a particular remedy becomes a gets enlisted in the therapeutic list of any disease because it has organ affinity. If you study the remedy of if you study the therapeutics of benign hypertrophy of prostate, you'll find all those remedies which have glandular affinity, particular affinity for prostate gland. You have all those symptoms which are you have all those symptoms which are uh, characteristic of that disease also, and in addition to the PQRS symptoms of that particular remedy. For example, conium is a remedy. Uh, uh, Benign hypertrophy of prostate or senile hypertrophy of prostate is a disease of the senile age mainly. So conium is adapted to the senile stage of life. Conium has glandular affinity, that too hard. Sometimes there is intermittent discharge. Uh, some You have hesitancy in senile hypertrophy of prostate, and we have intermittent discharges, which is very characteristic of conium. Hence, conium is a remedy which you cannot miss. You have to keep at the back of your mind when you are dealing with a case of senile hypertrophy of prostate, right? Baraita carb is a remedy which is adapted to the senile stage of life. Baraita carb is an important glandular remedy, be it tonsils, be it lymph nodes, be it prostate gland, right? So, are you with me as far as the therapeutic method is concerned? So, one more example. Why Drosera, Macphos, Cuprum mate? These are very important remedies of woofing cough with single paroxysm calcarea carb. This is not very much highlighted in the. Uh, this is not as highlighted. This is not as useful as uh, Drosera, Cuprum, Justicia. वूफिंग कफ के पैरोक्सिज्म जैसा रेमेडी पैरोक्सिज्म जो रेमेडी प्रोड्यूस करती है वो थेराप्यूटिकली ज्यादा यूजफुल रहेगी वूफिंग कफ के थेराप्यूटिक्स में, राइट? इन पेटिट माल एपिलेप्सी the attacks are for few seconds, short lived, they resolve on their own, not much, right? So causticum, zincum, these are the remedies for petit mal epilepsy. Grand mal epilepsy, where you have that aura, right? Where you have that whole picture, when you have that post-ictal phase, when you have that tonic-clonic spasms, both. Plumbum, for example. Plumbum is more suited to grand mal epilepsy. Causticum and zincum is more suited to petit mal epilepsy. So are you with me? The drug pathogenesis should match with the disease pathogenesis. So are you with me, people? Are you with me, doctors?
Yes, sir.
Is that
We
fine?
are with you.
Okay, fine. We'll move to the yes, Dr. Enigret. Okay, I'm basically mainly I'm using English only, maybe one or two sentences, which is just the sort of subtitle of that English. So you please don't bother about that. Yes. So the next approach is physiological method, studying the drug as the physiological action is concerned. Materia Medica by William Burt, a manual of pharmacodynamics by Richard Hughes. Then we have the group study. Group study can be done periodic table, rows and columns wise, or you can study family wise. Loganiaceae family, Ranunculaceae family. You can study that wise. You can study groups, metal group, carbon group, natrum group. You can study group wise, group of hemorrhagic remedies, group of flatulent remedies, uh, group of migraine remedies, uh, group of gallstone colic remedies. You can study that way. The biggest pro is you can of this method is you can compare and contrast some remedies. But the biggest con is that when you study certain common characteristic, you tend to take in for granted that all the remedies have this characteristic, and sometimes you tend to miss out which are exception to that group. So this is the biggest. So if you study a group. So you should know which characteristic or which feature applies to majority of the remedies and which remedy is exception to that feature. So this is the biggest drawback of that. The another approach is provings, right? So many provings may seem studying a proving type of materia medica may seem not that much interesting because there are not much mental symptoms. It is not very presented in that sense. It is not very presentable, but it is essential in day-to-day practice. Not that much in student phase, but much when you become a practitioner. Because just as I said, one point we'll highlight when we'll talk about the application of materia medica. So it is uh, we should negative matching is one of the most errors which we do in day-to-day clinical practice. So we should generally what we should search for those symptoms which are there in the patient. We should search for those symptoms which are there in materia medica and repertoire. We should not try to fit all the symptoms of a remedy, or all the symptoms of a remedy are not to be found in a given patient. So do you get that point? So पेशेंट में जो सिम्टम्स है वो मटेरिया मेडिका और रेपर्टरी में ढूंढना है, मटेरिया मेडिका में जो है वो पेशेंट में नहीं ढूंढना है. So we negative matching is one of the greatest mistakes in which we do in the application of materia medica. Ideally, we should search for the symptoms which a particular or which a given patient has presented, and we should search for those symptoms in materia medica and repertory. This is a given drug picture, and a certain patient should fit in this perfectly in this drug picture. This doesn't happen this doesn't happen many of the times. The other method of studying is clinical materia medica, Borix materia medica, Fartex materia medica, Farrington's clinical materia medica. Clinical materia medica mainly highlights on therapeutics, the clinical utilities of that drugs, which you can use at the bedside. The other approach is using repertory as a tool for the study of materia medica. For example, if you uh, if you just want to uh, find out remedies for bone pains, we may come across only 2 to 3 remedies: eupatorium, rustox, ruta, or maybe asafoetida, fluoric acid, aurum, and then in repertory there are n number of medicines for bone pains. So just a very simple example. So to avoid routinism and to broaden our knowledge, the repertory type of study of materia medica is required. The another type of is picture type, not the drug picture type, where illustrations and actual pictures are used. Such materia medicas are maybe very interesting to a first year student, or sometimes they help us to memorize because visual memory is very strong. So examples of such materia medica are expressive drug pictures by R.K. Chauhan, or illustrated come rhymed materia medica by Khera. Ritu Kindra has also depicted some pictorial type of materia medica. Kamal Kansal also, I guess, they have made pictorial materia medica. For example, if you want to highlight any remedy, for example, stramonium, fear of darkness and fear of being alone, you can just make a picture of when a person is afraid of dark, and when there is light and company, he is very much happy. You can just highlight this sort of picture. The visual memory helps you to memorize certain things in a uh, good way. So the picture type of materia medica. Next is combined study, obviously combining various methods. Next is poetry type of materia medica. Uh, so one more question. There are some poems in uh, there are some poems in uh, Dubé's materia medica, Anacardium, for example. So can you please tell me from where those poems have been taken? From which materia medica the poems has been taken? The poems in Dubé's materia medica From where are those poems being taken? So can you just tell me? Dr. Mansi, please note the names of the persons who answered correctly. ML Tyler, exactly. Who answered that? Please let me see. Kritika Hegde. Kritika Hegde and Manisha G and some anonymous attendee. Vasant Kumar, Song of Symptoms. Okay, Song of Symptoms. Yes, poetry type of Materia Medica by Patrice Emilias. Yes, and there are one or two at least more Materia Medicas. Yes, Dr. Vasant Kumar, Dr. Archana, Dr. Vasant Kumar, Dr. Archana, Dr. Sai Manikanta, Dr. Kritika Hegde, and Dr. Manisha G, an anonymous attendee. All these have answered this question correctly. So another method is analytical method. Another method is synthetic method. Synthetic method is just synonymous with group study. Another method is the analytical method of studying any material, any drug, which will be very useful in bedside clinical application, because in analytical study we highlight the sphere of action of a remedy, the extent to which an organ is affected, the action on the vital force, means the action of the energy, right? uh, the sensations, the peculiarities, the periodicity, and the resume. Resume is just like listing some uh, uh, listing sort of the gist of that remedy. So examples of such materia medica is national materia medica and regionals of boric by Dr. Satyapal. Regionals of boric is obviously written by Boric, but he sort of rearranged his Dr. Satyapal. So analytical study of materia medica, in which you highlight the sphere of action, the extent of which the tissue or organ is damaged, the action of a drug on the vital force, the sensations, the peculiarities, the periodicity, and the resume, like sort of recapitulating or writing the gist of that remedy. And the another sort of study is remedy relationship study. We'll come towards remedy relationship towards the end. The another way of study is situational materia medica. The way a person behaves in a particular situation may bring up certain remedies. Situational materia medica, some people like it because some people like it because they think that they have found something new, they have read some new, they have found situations, they have come to shortlisting of remedies in which you can prescribe very directly without any confusion. But some certain individuals have criticized this method because uh, it might not be easy to detect. For example, the situational materia medica of Lycopodium is Lycopodium feels that the whole understanding of Lycopodium we get is you can just keep it on side. We are just emphasizing on the situational materia medica. Situational materia medica of Lycopodium is like he feels that if I achieve something, only then I'll be loved and accepted. The situational materia medica of sulfur is who goes through a feeling of scorned, of looked down upon, and he feels like he should achieve and he should uh, like uh, work hard for achieving that status and all those things. The situational materia medica of Staphysagria is a person who is born in a state where there is a lot of pressure to live up to a certain reputation, and he should make his reputation uh, of his own. So this is the situational materia medica of Staphysagria. Dr. Anil Sharma is asking, sir, for any disease, a single remedy is beneficial to treat, or single remedy but patent dilution remedy along with I'll come to this question towards the end. I have this question in mind. Pentacurrent remedies should we use? Should we use them? Dr. Muhammad, Lyco leads to sulfur. Yes, because though they are cyclic remedies, it's quite likely that they will uh, at different times they'll show different pictures, which is also true of natrum, sepia, ignatia, which is also true of certain other remedies like argentum, nitricum, lycopodium. So the other approach to study is type monogram study. Monogram study is like you can interpret this type of study in two ways. Monogram study is like you can study one drug in much detail from many sources. Some examples of people who have written monogram: sulfur by Nash, natromure by Burnett, Drosera by Tyler, Oromet by Burnett, carcinogen drug pictures by Fobister, uh, gunpowder as a war remedy by Dr. Clark. These are the examples. More, they have written the entire book only about one remedy, and they have written many such details which are not to be found in some other materia medicas or most of the materia medicas. The another interpretation of monogram type of studies you can take it, which is similar to keynote type of study. The remedy, the themes which run through the entire remedy. For example, if we take any remedy, so this monogram type of study is highlighted in this book, Materia Medica, Absolute Homeopathic Materia Medica by Dr. Ajit Kulkarni sir. If you take any drug, random drug, for example, if you take conium, conium, the keynote type of conium, if we just highlight the themes of conium, maybe senility, the glands, the intermittency of the discharge, all these things are the keynote of conium, right? So here, what Dr. Ajit Kulkarni sir highlights is the monogram or the essence or the gist of conium is the chronicity, senile, scrofulous, relating to gland, neurotic, hysterical, degenerative, cachectic, wasting, paralytic, depressed. Yes, paralysis is very important, the ascending paralysis as we know. Depressed, painless, cancerous, psychosyphilitic, debilitated, and neurasthenic. One more thing can be added: negative generals. If we know a remedy, Ignatia, which has so many contradictory symptoms, Unium is a remedy which has many negative generals. One of the most common known negative generals of Conium is photophobia without inflammation. The another approach to study is typological study, where the physical makeup of that remedy is highlighted. You find that in Allen's keynotes, you find that in Philip Bailey, you find that in right in common materia medicas as well as uncommon materia medica. One important study is psychoanalytical type of study, where the person is studied as an individual. If you read the drug picture, you feel like you are reading about the description of an individual. You are reading about the description of a person, which is very interesting. It may or may not be very appealing to everyone. It may be very appealing to some people because you say that we talk about individuality, we talk about holism. What else, what other materia medica can describe individual or the peculiarities of individuals or the differentiation in such subtle way? Whereas some people who are much more ardent fan of the older materia medicas, they may not find that approach very interesting because they always ask, what is the reliable source of this mental symptoms? You have written so many mental symptoms, but are they really very reliable? If at all you found them, in how many patients did you find them, whether in proving or clinical experience or in or by any other method? But this is also a very recently popular method of study of materia medica. So, so this completes the approach. So how to study materia medica? I have told you the different approaches. I have told you some stories. So can Dr. Mansi, it's already 9:25. So can we directly jump towards the question? Because I guess in the questions many things will be answered. We'll take the Materia Medica questions first and we'll take the other questions later. Is that fine? Dr. Mansi, are you there? Pemphigus vulgaris, there are many medicines. Ranunculaceae, particularly Ranunculus. Scleratus is a very important remedy. Pemphigus. Psychoanalytical approach, yes. Just as I told earlier, Essence of Materia Medica by George Vitholkas, Homeopathic Psychology by Philip Bailey, Portrait of Remedies by Catherine Coulter, Soul of Remedies by Dr. Rajan Shankaran. Yes. Dr. Mansi, are you there? So I'll just take up one point. Uh, you all have difficulty in memorizing the symptoms, right? Before moving that, before moving to that, I'll just highlight 2 points. Dr. Kent writes in his Materia Medica that the Materia Medica can be learnt by careful study and by using it. It can be understood, but it cannot be memorized. All who would memorize the Materia Medica must ignominiously fail. To be constantly at hand, it must be constantly and correctly used. The continuous study of the Materia Medica by the aid of full repertory for comparison is the only means of continuing in a good working knowledge. To learn the Materia Medica, one must master Hahnemann's Organon, after which the symptomatology and the organon go hand in hand. The organon, the symptomatology, and the full repertory must be attained and maintained. To acquire a foreign language, what good would it do to learn the dictionary from beginning to end? So all the stalwarts have advised that don't go behind memorizing each and every symptom. But certain things need to be memorized and certain things needs to be remembered, not just for the exam purpose, but also for the application at the bedside. Because for every small detail, you cannot look up in the repertory or materia medica, which makes a because as far as the passing in the exams is concerned, you need to memorize certain things. But also in applying it in the clinic, because if you like open your laptop or open your tab or open your mobile or open your book in front of this patient, some patient may take it in a very positive manner, some patient may not take it in a positive manner. Some patients, if at all patients would take it in a positive manner, they may take it like, "Hmm, uh, the doctor is involved in my case and maybe he has some thoughts in his mind, maybe there is confusion or maybe whatever, he wants to confirm it from the book. Good, he's involved in my case." But those who want to uh, take it in a negative way, they can take it in a negative way. Hmm. Doctor has forgotten this. Doctor is not that much studious. Was doctor a very average student in his school, college days? Um, is there a confusion regarding my case? Uh, has doctor seen such sort of cases earlier or not? So can you relate to the practical difficulties that I'm talking about? Please give a thumbs up if you relate to this point. I'm
Hello.
reading your question. Hello.
Yes, sir. So, sir,
Yeah, I'm reading.
I think we have covered a lot questions.
Yeah, fine.
Does anybody have any last question to ask? they can ask quickly because it's time to wrap up.
Someone is asking, that's a dermatology question.
Yes.
I'll give some mnemonics and just a remedy example, remedy relationship example in very, very quick time. So some of the mnemonics which you can use in memorizing important things is, for example, if I say that losing symptoms while eating well, losing flesh while eating well. So two, three remedies might pop up in your mind instantly, but you might miss on some other remedies, maybe natrum, maybe iodum, or maybe uh, tuberculinum. But if you form an acronym, SAINT, SAINT. So S for sanicula, A for abrotanum and acetic acid, I for iodum, N for natromure, and T for tuberculinum. So at least six remedies you know now for this symptom, losing flesh while eating well. There are very similar symptoms which can be confusing, right? For example, in digitalis, uh, fears that if she moved, the heart would stop beating. The exactly opposite of that is in gelsimia, right? Unless on the move, she fears that her heart will stop beating. So you can memorize it in that way. D for digitalis, D for do not move, G for gelsemium, G for get on the move. Digitalis fears that if she moved, my heart would stop beating. Do not move. G for gelsemium, get on the move. Unless on the move, the heart would stop beating. And when you again read gelsemium, you'll find this symptom. Most of the symptoms are worst by motion, except the muscular pain and the heart symptoms. Chelidonium and Cardus, you have difficulty in remembering which causes vertical or horizontal enlargement. So Cardus has a W in the spelling, Cardws. So W, so transverse enlargement, horizontal enlargement, and Chelidonium has an L, L for long, long. So you can just remember Chelidonium for vertical enlargement of the liver. One more confusing point is Chelidonium uh, or Cardus. Which remedy has affinity for which lobe of the liver? Chelidonium is a relatively common remedy and a bigger remedy, a polycrest. So you can, in that sense, you can remember Chelidonium is more for the, and Chelidonium is a prominent right-sided remedy. So Chelidonium for the right lobe of the liver and Cardus for the left lobe of the liver. And one thing, Dr. Anigret, I'll just say in Hindi.